video. It's a response video. This white piece of stuff. Quid pro quo called, anyway. How are they being almost not gratuitously buffoony? So, well, at least we've watched 6 minutes of it. Anyway, it's supposed to be on gravitational lensing, and instead he's on the LIGO subject. So it's gravitational waves, and how no reasonable person could be at all skeptical about the volume of evidence and the obvious demonstrated truth of everything proposed in the experiment. So just thought, he just goes on for 6 minutes just saying how can you not see how this makes perfect sense, you know, that black holes are converted into some kind of gravity thing, okay? Something that we can't detect with any other instrument. Some kind of fun thing, you know, that, yes, doesn't create any noise in any other spectrum but one little special spectrum, that we have a special machine just for. That kind of thing. So there's no theoretical basis for it. Again, they keep saying this has something to do with Einstein. Einstein said nothing on the subject of converting masses into gravity. Nothing. Einstein talked about the fact that when two things are looking at you this way, the gravity's different than when they're looking at you this way. That's what Einstein said. Yes, it's all the planets lined up on one side, you know, just coincidentally, they all lined up perfectly. The gravitational signature of the solar system would change. And you could theoretically detect that change because the gravity changes because it's not spread out as much, you see. So that's what Einstein said. So yes, theoretically you could detect that, but you're not going to. That's what he said. You're not going to because, yes, it's incredibly weak change, and you're not going to be able to create any instrument that can detect that. But so that's what Einstein said. But everybody keeps saying Einstein predicted this. Einstein didn't predict any of this crap. He didn't predict converting solar masses into gravity, that for sure. Never happened. Einstein never had conversations like, well, what if we converted all the mass of two suns, or you know, 3 suns. We took 3 suns and we converted all their mass into photons, light. What would happen? Because he would have said something simple like, well, you'd have a light so bright for that millisecond that it would be as bright as the sun, or maybe even brighter. It might even burn you. It would be so bright for that very little brief moment. You know, he'd say something like that probably. But he'd say, that's not going to happen, you silly fucktards. Alright, well, anyway. There's so many prefaces to give on this subject. I mean, my problem with gravitational lensing is first the theory, okay, that they went looking for this thing, this signal that they contrived, in my opinion, okay? I don't know why they did, alright? Maybe they saw the early results from the interferometer and said, look, it chirps now and then. Let's make a signal that chirps because this thing's kind of chirpy. You know, so let's come up with something to chirp, something that goes woo 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 woo, you know, big signal. You know, and they're not, again, I've said this before, the big signal, the chirp, is supposed to be the thing that gives this signature away, you know, the three solar masses being converted. And yet somehow they can detect the other stuff, the stuff before the chirp. They weren't supposed to be able to detect that. How come they can? It's like detecting, say I use a match to light a bomb. It's like detecting the bomb signal and the match that lit it, and then saying how I need this special device because it can detect bombs, when in fact you're saying you can detect matches. You know, why do you need a bomb detector if you already have the match detector? That kind of thing. Why do you need to invent the purpose of making a bomb, having a bomb of gravity? So there's so much to talk about here, but you know, it's their whole analysis is the problem. The idea that they say these bold things. We can measure the thickness of a human hair from a light year away or something. You know, preposterous statements about the precision of their device. And the fact that they filtered out every possible noise. You know, it's like, well, how can you possibly do that? Because there could be noises. The universe only makes one in every 500 years. You can't filter out stuff you haven't heard yet. So even, just preposterous overstatements made by these people, and you don't see any of that as being like corner cutting. And then if you cut enough little corners, you can make the square peg go in the round hole. And that's my accusation. My accusation isn't that they've deliberately said let's lie. No, my accusation is they've taken unproven, untested, no reason to believe it actually happens nonsense, and by just shaving the data, shaving, they've used that crap to create their success. They've had 40 years to do it. Okay, they've been spending 40 years playing with this stupid. Well, it's probably even longer than that the idea first came up. It's like back in the 50s or something. And they've had all that time to sit there and engineer their success, one little corner cut at a time. That's my accusation. But my fundamental accusation is, it seems preposterously contrived, okay, that it's possible to create more energy in one moment in gravity than is any other spectrum of the energy spectrum. So all the other energy possible to create from all the radiations known, or the entire photoelectric spectrum, all the photons, radio waves to whatever, gamma, blah blah, X-rays, all that stuff. None of that stuff will ever do what black holes do in their little black way. Their little secret black way. Little black holes do this secret black energy thing where they create this, invisible wave of non-force that moves the Earth, a zillion light years away, right? Or whatever it is, 4 billion light years away. It floats all the way through space, then comes here and actually moves the Earth. So imagine moving the Earth with photons. So just imagine how bright something would have to be to move the Earth if it used some other kind of force. And force is force. I mean, realistically, they're all real things, these forces. And this idea that you can send that much energy across space and it doesn't leave there's not a single thing moved in the process. The black holes explode, nothing starts accelerating because of it, nothing gets accelerated by it, nothing gets moved by it. It just magically does this little magic thing. And like I said, and apparently this is some sort of negative gravitational wave. It's not even actual gravity, which is always an attractive thing. This is actually somehow a repulsive gravity, because that's another problem they have by making it into this energy thing, by creating this energy release that's not in the normal spectrums of energy releases. It's in this special gravity energy release. So just understand, this isn't about some kind of normal gravity. This is about nothing Einstein ever predicted. This has nothing to do with relativity. It has nothing to do with any existing theory. It has to do with their theory. Their theory of converting matter into gravity somehow, bent space. And it's not, again, positive bent space, it's negative bent space. The two black holes don't explode and release these 3 solar masses in a millisecond. And then say something nearby would get sucked in, super suck power. It doesn't create any super suck power, and if anything it's going to create a repulsive force, but they're pretending it doesn't somehow. Somehow you can release that much energy in any form, and somehow the stuff in the neighborhood doesn't get impacted. Because that theoretically, see, if they made this into a real force, the problem is a real force, like, okay, if it was electromagnetic, it was a photon of some kind, it would get here at the speed of light, but we would detect the hell out of it. No way of missing it, right? I mean, this huge event just took place, we'd have a signature, and you'd have that expectation. You could see it. You could actually see it with your naked eye. It's so frickin' bright, okay, in terms of the amount of energy we're talking about. Huge, insane amount of energy reaching the Earth from 4 billion light years away. And so they've converted it into something non-detectable in any other way, merely to make it more of this invisible stuff. It's a dark energy now. It's a type of invisible energy, and you can only detect this huge amount of energy by sticking a planet up and saying, did it wobble the planet? I doubt that. I doubt this has any validity at all, in the sense that none of this has been proven. Now, they could have proven LIGO, right? They could have pointed it, well, theoretically, they could have waited for the proper rotation of the Earth and then just see what the sun's doing and see if there's a sunspot, one of those big giant blobs coming off the sun. Because they should be able to detect that. That's close enough. It should move the planet, and in a specific way. The northern lights even. They should find a correlation between high activity in the northern lights and a little bit of shudder in the Earth coming from a particular directions. So they could have tested this with some other real detection. They could have detected something else that would give some indication of the actual precision they're saying they have. But there's none of that. That's the corners all cut. We're just assuming it works. We haven't tested it. So anyway, sorry I went on and on, but I mean, it's just this accusation that I'm some kind of truther, I'm a 9/11 truther, because I just don't jump on board this whole bullshit that's been made up. And again, these are obvious deceptions. These are obvious misrepresentations coming from the people you say you trust. They say something like, we just proved Einstein. When what the fuck does it have to do with Einstein? You show me the Einstein quote where Einstein said any of this crap was possible. Any of the statements they're making about what they're calling a gravitational wave. You show me how what they're calling a gravitational wave has something to do with anything Einstein speculated. So you can't see how these are all, you can just point out all these little murders committed by these people in terms of integrity murders, and then when they're challenged by somebody points out that, well, we can't find the statistical analysis used to assume no coincidence, because when we looked at your data, the data you made available, we couldn't come up with an algorithm that eliminates the possibility of coincidence. And what's their response? No, we think we did. So when they're challenged, they don't even respond with no, this is how we did it, and look, it really works. We've got a good algorithm. It takes care of the problem. They don't do that. They don't even defend their science with something like a response to how a critique is invalid. They just say, we got it covered. And you trust those people.
Quote, hopefully. Inman posed a question about why we see no half of a galaxy. Because when we see a galaxy that we are privileged to see by virtue of some lensing, he notes that there's an observer potentially somewhere that gets to see nothing.
Right, so he says he's somehow got a fix for that, so that'll have to be another video. Sorry.
There's a gap, something missing. So he suggests maybe we should be seeing half galaxies and the likes. It's an interesting observation. I think it falls under a class. He's also asked lots of questions of this nature, of a broad class, which I've been planning to make a video to try to give an answer to. Which falls under the class of, for him, he feels that if you have predictions of gravitational lensing, based on the physics and the predictions...
Based on, again, and so first let's just say, I don't think the physics has any grounding. I've never seen the public conversation or any kind of conversation that ever took place among any group of scientists anywhere that did any confirmation about any theoretical possibility of converting mass into a gravity wave. Not into photons, not into radiation, not into X-rays, not into heat, not into any other kind of thing. it takes 3 solar masses and directly folds it somehow into the fabric of space. That theoretical conversation, I never saw it take place. I never even heard a talking head even talk about that happening. And yet now it is established as a premise fact that that's how the universe works, that somehow black holes, when they die or have an encounter of some kind, they don't excrete any kind of Hawking radiation or some other kind of radiation. No, they excrete bent space. Where did that get established as a theoretical, rational, yes, of course it happens that way fact?
In actual fact, we should see more of it if it was to cause. No, I think I can explain it. In particular, for example, he posed a question, which was a particular one which I thought I would answer.
Yeah, yeah. No, I didn't pose any of this. So again, just mixing subjects for your own purpose. But no, they are separate subjects. I don't know if you know that, but gravitational lensing and gravitational waves are really separate subjects. They don't have anything in common.
Why no lensing around Jupiter? Sorry, I shouldn't.
Yeah, okay. Well, that's a misquote. I didn't say why no lensing around Jupiter. I speculated to the possibility that if you can have solar lensing at a radius away from the sun, then theoretically you might be able to do lensing on the surface of Jupiter, because you don't have the frickin' problem of too much light. So you can get a lot closer to Jupiter without being bothered by the radiation coming off of Jupiter. So you have a better chance maybe of finding it there, as long as you theoretically think it's possible for the sun to bend light at maybe a diameter distance away from the sun. I don't know what the limitations would be. So that's all I did. I said why. I didn't never said why no. So your inability to properly paraphrase or talk about my argument. I said I never considered it because everybody assumes planets don't have enough gravity, but obviously Jupiter does have significant gravity.
I don't. The question, so I'll answer that. The question I have to remember is, what exactly is his position on the LIGO experiment then? Because it seems...
Okay, so now I've made videos, lots of videos, complaining about exactly these things. The idea that you can convert something into a bent space force, that you can take energy, matter, and convert it into some kind of... You're taking matter, converting it into energy, and the energy is in the form of bent space, which has been taken out of the sphere of an energetic force that can be converted. So it was never in the real universe, and now they're putting bent space in the real universe. It can now interact with other forces in the sense that all you need is a catalyst, and maybe you can turn bent space into photons. If you can convert matter into bent space, then you theoretically should be able to convert bent space into some other kind of force. Which that's what I've talked about. I've been pretty damn clear about what my criticisms of LIGO are. Now, my criticisms of interferometers in general are that they're not as precise as they think they are, because they haven't even figured out that their beam splitter isn't creating as pure a split as they're assuming.
To me, his position necessarily implies, a huge conspiracy. That's it.
Now again, I'm forced to have words put in my mouth by people like you. I'm not allowed to just simply say this is what I'm arguing these scientists have done. All of science right now has a real problem. They're all like little kids at a candy store. They're all really excited about everything, right? They all go look at the clips and they go, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, and they go all loop-de-doopy, It's a little party for them, right? And so they're all excited, and their excitement has made them really bad scientists. Where Newton, when pushed and prodded and poked. You know, well, how does it do it? Well, how does it do it? What makes gravity? He'd just say, no, I don't have that answer. I told you what happens. I don't got any why it happens. No, I don't have anything for that. All I got is what happens. What's going to happen. I can tell you how it works. I can't tell you what makes it work, if that's the way to put it, to paraphrase. Now that's a good scientist. I'm just saying these guys are really bad scientists because the first thing that occurs to them, well, maybe we need a chirp. Well, you know, maybe black holes chirp when they crash into each other. You know, when they're in a binary system that Einstein never, I don't think Einstein speculated about black holes in binary systems, but who knows, maybe.
The biggest fraud ever conducted.
No, the biggest mistake, like putting the wrong head on the brontosaurus or Peking man, these are all mistakes of enthusiasm. We know scientists can make them. They want something to be true. They're really excited about their theory. And yeah, they start fucking and cutting corners. And all I'm saying is LIGO is an example of cut corner after cut corner after cut corner. We think it's really precise. We won't do any explicit tests to prove how precise it is. But, you know, theoretically, yeah, we could measure a hair from, you know, Alpha Centauri. Yeah, sure we could. Yeah. You think so, don't you? I think so. So I guess we can. I'm talking a lot of crap like that happens where they've just allowed their confirmation bias to confirm.
Because I think he has problems and denies the possibility of this kind of interference.
So he says, I deny that interferometers work at all. No. I deny that they can detect human hairs on Alpha Centauri. I deny the proposition that the device is capable of eliminating all these sources of noise. I deny all that crap. So, you know, get my denials correct, please. I mean, it's just a slander. When you say that anybody who opposes you is a 9/11 truther, and that's all you're doing now, is saying anybody who disagrees with me is a 9/11 truther. I mean, it's just kind of a bullshit argument. There should be a fallacy for that. You know, like everybody's not Hitler. You know, and everybody's not a 9/11 truther because they don't agree with you.
Constructive, destructive interference, and that the theory of general relativity.
Well, as I pointed out, the interference happens in the interferometer. It's a diffraction gradient, and it diffracts the light. That's the first injection of interference, so to speak. And again, I'm not saying that's interference caused by interference. It's caused by diffraction, and the fact that when you take light that goes two separate paths and you superimpose that light on top of each other, that the mechanism through which you will do that will allow the variations to be seen. Yes, I'm saying interferometers can do that. I'm just saying until you show this thing to be capable of detecting the tiny, tiny sounds you're saying it's detecting, you know, it's just kind of bogus to say, look, here's the proof. No, we don't really have anything to demonstrate we could do what we're saying we did. Again, sunspots happen all the time. Why don't they detect those? Now that would be verification. If they showed us the sunspot chirp and said, look, here, we watched it. Here's a video of the sunspot, and here's the chirp on our data. So we detected that change in gravitational flux.
It allows for the definition of space, the model of space, because I don't believe in the fabric of space.
But yeah, you believe in everything that makes the fabric. You believe in the threads of space. Then what's the difference? You're clearly saying you believe there's this mechanism, the geometry thingy, that does exactly what a bent space fabric would do. So what's the difference? And somehow you believe that you can convert matter into that geometry. You can convert matter into geometry.
The general relativity gives us a model which to get a flavour of the model, one can envisage a kind of fabric of space. This fabric of space idea, or just the model if you like, predicts influences over great...
Yeah, no, it doesn't. It doesn't predict the creation of super bombs of gravity from the conversion of matter into fabric. There's no Einstein prediction of converting matter into fabric. There's an Einstein prediction that matter can do things that create absences and presences of gravity. So two black holes lined up this way stronger than two black holes lined up this way. That's what Einstein said. So again, don't... You're just demonstrating how cutting corners works, because now everybody just does it and they're just happy with it. We'll just pretend Einstein predicted this crap when he didn't. You don't see how that's cutting a corner, how that's just cheating Einstein. It's cheating the theory. It's just cheating to say Einstein predicted conversion of matter into gravity. It's cheating.
Distances that could occur, and LIGO is detecting them.
So again, it's detecting not something Einstein talked about. It's detecting something that's a brand new invention. It has nothing to do with anything Einstein predicted. It's detecting the conversion of the instantaneous almost conversion, very, very quick conversion, millisecond conversion of 3 solar masses into some sort of bent space ripple. Nothing Einstein talked about. So again, you're just assuming that's a well-tested theoretical premise. The existence of that phenomenon has been well-tested. It's really kind of fundamental to the whole workings of gravity that of course this can happen. So, and I haven't seen any conversation even among theoretical physics people. The only people doing the speculation for this is the LIGO's people, and it seems that every other physicist is afraid to even have to say a damn thing on the subject. But certainly it's a lot harder to challenge it now, after they claim they succeeded, than it would have been beforehand, and nobody challenged the theory beforehand. I didn't even challenge it beforehand because I didn't know that's what their experiment was based on. If the public knew that's what they were spending all this money to find, they might have said something like, well, wait a minute, that premise doesn't sound right.
No. And then often approach people to take a position on things, and is...
And there won't be any quotes for this crap either. Yes, certain things, yeah, you either believe in God or you don't. You either demonstrate you're an idiot or you don't. You either pass the test or you fail the test.
Scornful of those who seem ambivalent or equivocal.
Okay, so there are no quotes for that. So I'm just saying I'd like to see the evidence that I force people to take a position on bizarre theories. Because I don't. I expect them to take a position on something like suffering sucks. Yeah. They can't figure that one out, dumb fucker.
And it's a no. The reason I picked this is because the LIGO data is available to the public.
So again, yes, in a form completely beyond any public person's analysis. Right? So let's just understand what they're doing. They're hearing, okay? They put their little hearing thing on, and it hears in millionths of a second. And so the data is, a century long if you had to read it. Okay, the data from one day is 100 years long if you had to just read it, little jiggly at a time. So let's understand, the raw data is of no use to anybody in the general public. None whatsoever. You have to have, computers programmed to analyze the data to have any hope. And what isn't made public is the programs they're analyzing the data with, the algorithms they're using to analyze the data. That they didn't make public. That's why the Einstein Institute or whatever it's called now, they challenged their claim that they have some algorithm that eliminates, that has proven or demonstrated the improbability of coincident chirps. Because they claim they don't have any such, there's so much signal that there seems to be a good probability, actually, of coincidence. There's so much data, 100 years of data, that in 100 years you might have two apples hit the ground at exactly the same time. It wouldn't be statistically impossible.
And even the sort of source code analysis is available to the public, so you can
well, again, so this is such a, you know, what is this, the fallacy from everyone has a supercomputer in their living room? I mean, you know, and again, I'm arguing the theory behind the analysis, the assumptions made in building the entire contraption from its inception. That's what I'm arguing. None of that theory was tested.
Yourself, you can look at the source code, you can edit the source code.
So again, I don't even know what the source code indicates. The source code for what? It's not the source code for their actual algorithm, so what's the point? What source code are you talking about?
And see that the data is there. Obviously, there are filtering techniques.
See that the data is there. So again, this argument that somebody's saying there wasn't a chirp on the seismograph. The seismograph didn't chirp. No one's arguing the seismograph didn't chirp. What's argued is, what does the chirp represent, and how much of a, you know, the very idea, frankly, of the three solar masses only chirping, it should do a hell of a lot more than chirp. I mean, you should have more of a deflection than the tiny deflection in the signal. From pre-chirp to chirp should be a bigger deflection. I can see that. You know, whether you're measuring it by the frequency of the chirp or you're measuring it by the amplitude of the chirp, either way you measure it, there's something wrong with their signal. Their signal has obviously been modified in some way, because three solar masses, again, it's like the difference between the sun being on and me replacing the sun with a 50-watt light bulb. And I'm going to say I can see both equally well in a signal. That somehow the sun all the way on and a 100-watt light bulb in its place, somehow the 100-watt light bulb looks like this and the sun only looks like this. I'm saying, just from naked eye analysis, you can say that doesn't make any sense.
Techniques, but the filtering techniques.
Filtering techniques. So again, we're back to the argument I made a long time ago about this noise thing and creating noise filters. And there's no way to create noise filters for sounds you never heard. So again, this whole presumption that in the maybe 50 years we've been listening to anything happening, and I'd say we've been listening even less than that. The 5 years they've actually been listening to the universe, in some, you know, gravitationally listening, and that they somehow have a database full of all the possible noises. You don't see how that's a cut corner. To say that we've accomplished that task when it's theoretically impossible to accomplish that task. It's theoretically impossible for me to sit here never seeing, saying I've never been in a 50-year flood, you know, and that somehow I can pre-know what it's like or something. There's no way. I have to wait till it actually happens before I can say, oh, that's how I could have a flood here on top of a mountain.
And the mathematics of Fourier analysis, absolutely, I don't know. But these...
But it's all perfectly fine and good. Okay, you think it's all perfectly fine. This is good science. It was done in some disciplined way. I'm just making the accusation that I think it was done by a bunch of fundamentally fringe scientists who were given a license to do bad science. And they did some bad science right before our eyes, and everybody's celebrating it.
Filters.
I mean, I don't think it's any better than the stupid arsenic NASA scientist who found the arsenic microbe by making one in a bucket. I mean, I don't think she had a malicious intent. I just think she was a lousy scientist. I mean, not to figure out that she was genetically creating her monster, and then to say, look, I found a Frankenstein in nature, when she deliberately, essentially made the fucking thing. She created the monster, and then she says, look at the monster I found. You know, it's like some, you know, I mean, it's almost as bad. It's not quite as bad, but you wouldn't think a scientist would fall for it. You know, well, let me put a wig on it, and let me put makeup on it. Look, you look just like it. You know, and then be fooled. I mean, to be fooled by their own creation. And I'm sort of saying that, yes, this LIGO thing, they're fooled by their own creation. They created their success by doing crappy, reckless, too enthusiastic, too aggressive. The pressure was on, we all know that. They had to find something, or there wasn't going to be any more funding.
Our filters, they don't put in the data. Okay? So if there are statistical anomalies that are revealed in the data, they really are there.
Yes, and again, so you keep making this accusation, so another false, just a kind of slanderous lie that somebody's, oh, they're denying the existence of the signal. No, I'm not denying the existence of the signal. I'm denying the fact that that signal, out of the other 4 zillion taken in the 5 hours of data, okay, doesn't represent a special cosmic event.
Just hidden amongst all this data, and the analysis allows you to see the chirp, as they call it. You know.
Yes, as they call it. As I've seen no theoretical science to indicate this has anything to do with the real universe and anything the real universe does, which is chirp a bunch of bent space into existence. So you believe that black holes chirp bent space. Okay, so it's another magical thing that black holes do. Okay, they have lots of magic powers, these black holes. They can bend light, they can swirl light, they can capture this, they can do that, they can Hawking radiation, they can create super gigantic jet thingies, they can do all kinds of fucking shit. So they're just little magical things, aren't they? Fine, if that's what you believe, fine. I have nothing to say except where was any of this theory tested, besides the fact of their claiming success. Besides their success, where's the evidence that it works?
As 2 black holes or 2 neutron stars merge.
Well, again, 2 neutron stars ain't gonna do it. But you're not gonna get 3 solar masses popping out of them.
So, to me, it's a preposterous idea. Yeah?
Okay, it's preposterous to sit there and say they could be making an error. They have made a few too many shortcutty presumptions along the way, and they got fooled. That's preposterous. It can't possibly be true that they were fooled by their enthusiasm and their lack of discipline. Not possible. Preposterous.
Also, you have 2 detectors, soon to be 3, and probably many more, because of this is seen as a breakthrough and a new generation of astronomy.
Right, seen by what? Pop culture hype. And astronomy in what way? How is this at all meaningful to anything but black hole science? I mean, it can't possibly have any relevance to any cosmological doings, because clearly these magical waves go through everything and don't push anything. You know, the magic, that's kind of a magical gravity. Very strong, but it doesn't make things go any one direction at all. It just shakes shit somehow. That's somehow a cosmological breakthrough. Well, I don't think so. I think that's a preposterous exaggeration that you're going to cure cancer with this crap. You're not going to come up with any, oh, we understand the mysteries of the universe now through this mush.
So it seems preposterous. It seems like...
Okay, you said that already. So it's preposterous to doubt your Pope. the Pope Castle came up with this perfect little chirpy thing. You can't possibly, they proved it, with a million shortcuts. How can you deny it? And it was clearly exactly what Einstein predicted. So shit, that's another point for it, right? It's exactly what Einstein said was going to happen. I mean, I shouldn't have to make this video, by the way. I mean, I shouldn't have to point this stuff out, that this is just nonsensical exaggeration.
Twin Towers conspiracy theory.
Okay, so 9/11 conspiracy theorists. So because some lunatics think you need to have a match on the airplane to ignite the jet fuel when the plane crashes into the building at 400 miles an hour, that means I'm an idiot. Fuck you.
9/11 conspiracy theorists to say nothing is happening at LIGO. It's a complete fabrication because they don't.
Again, so I never said any of that. I said I like the technology. I like the idea of it. Okay, so I would have voted for it, but I would have voted for it for a whole lot of experiments first before you go focusing all your attention on finding some silly, theoretically wishy-washy event. So yeah, I would have been doing the solar flare thing. I would have been doing seismographic shit. Can we actually hear a conversation in the Kremlin? That would be a really interesting test. I mean, if you can see how thick a hair is on Alpha Centauri, then I think you probably should be able to hear somebody farting in a toilet in the Kremlin.
I want to give up the jobs. Okay.
Well, I watched these people for years doing this promo. Okay, every one of the science meetups, they'd always have one of these LIGOs people, usually the Spanish woman, and they just hype up this crap. Oh yeah, we're almost there. We added a few vitamins to the compositizer, and so it's doing a little better. And I think we got twice we can see half a human hair from half a light year away. Well, we're almost, yeah. We can do all kinds of great stuff. But there was none of this great stuff besides what they claim they could do. Not any evidence of exactly what noises you ever even heard with this stupid machine. I mean, if they would have just chronicalized some of the great things they actually heard with it, like we heard, like, if you knock the Tower of Pizza over, we're going to be able to hear it. Something. Oh, there was that big explosion in China. Did they hear it?
That seems to be the implication of Greenland's position.
Okay, so again, this seems to be. So, yes, I seem to be a 9/11 truther because, yeah, I just don't swallow everything that comes out of one of these talking head scientists' mouths because I have the rational understanding that most of the shit they just made up. A few of them wrote some shit on a piece of notebook paper and said, geez, that kind of looks like it'll work, square's the same as a circle, they did that kind of stuff, and then they just confirmation biased. Well, let's show it to the other guy who believes in all this crap. Let's show it to the other guy who believes in all this crap. But let's not show it to anybody who might say, wait a minute. So you're saying that this had something to do with what Einstein was doing? No, this is something completely different. I'm just letting you know. Einstein never talked about converting matter into bent space. So yeah, no, that's way out there, buddy. That's a multiversy kind of theory.
Right, so on to the answer now. Back to the answer.
Okay, so now we're back to lensing apparently. So I think I've made an abundant number of points, but just understand that all of this is dependent on having this event, this massive event happens, the black holes crash, and they don't create any other signature. No other energy signature is created. No photons, no radio waves, no any other thing that somehow could verify this event. We detect the gravitational waves, they move the speed of light, and also photons would move the speed of light. So instead of creating some kind of energy we are familiar with, in the sense that we have devices that can detect, it creates this totally invisible energy that travels through the universe and shakes the earth, but it doesn't blow anything it doesn't give any other mechanical signature of the fact of the event. So there's no signature for the event besides this one special little thing that happens. And just think about that. I mean, does that sound probabilistic? That the most massive movement of energy in the universe only happens when you convert matter into gravity waves. That's the most massive. So the weakest force is now the strongest force, because now you can convert matter into that weak force, make a huge giant pile of it, travel it through the universe somehow. Again, theoretically, it somehow doesn't get obscured like light would. Say if it was photons, we know that the photons would hit other things and it would incinerate them, just fry them. It's so many photons. Just recognize, it's so many photons all at once. 3 solar masses all at once is the sun 3 times over its entire lifetime. It's a huge amount of energy, just unimaginable, hard to imagine. But it would be a brightness in the universe that would be so incredibly bright. So when these black holes crashed, if they were to turn into real light, just understand, if it were to turn into real energy, this event would have been so bright, it would have been like the sun shining in the black universe. The black sky would be black, and there would be a blip of light as bright as the sun. Probably brighter, because it's shaking our earth. It has to be brighter than the sun, because it's actually shaking the earth from that distance. So it's this huge brightness of energy. So just understand that that's what the theory's saying, that the most powerful excretion of energy that takes place in the known universe happens in this invisible bent space medium, just by coincidence. That's the argument. And I think it's theoretical rubbish. And I think it hasn't been proven, it hasn't been demonstrated, it hasn't been confirmed by anything else. It is completely self-confirming circular science.